Welcome to another episode of Ivy Games Weekly. I am Austin Harrison, and I am joined by Zach Dixon.
Hello.
And I'm not going to talk very much this week.
No, that's what I told him he had to do.
You're the boss. So.
It's like, just sit there, and I'm going to talk. No, that's
today we're talking about the art of Mythic Mischief. And
Yes.
I don't know how much you guys know about our roles, but Zach is executive creative director of the company.
Sounds
and
right.
I am not allowed to touch the art.
No, that's not true. I value your...
You value my
your-
opinion, but I'm not allowed to touch it.
I value your insights. No,
okay.
Yeah, no. No, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about Austin's crucial role in the making of the art.
The crucial role of the layman's opinion.
I would put it much more charitably than that.
Oh, thank you. That would be very kind of you.
But no, we'll get into it. But this is part of a larger series here on Ivy Games Weekly. Or I guess we're just dropping it. It's just Games Weekly now,
I think it's
right?
just Games Weekly.
It's like
That's my bad.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Drop the Ivy. I don't know. Some good old social network references. You can't live without them. Okay, so we are doing the Road to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
This is episode 2 of the Road to Kickstarter for Mythic Mischief, which is coming to Kickstarter on August 31st. Last week we had Max here. Max is one of the game designers on Mythic Mischief and Moonrakers and Veiled Fate, and Mythic Mischief was really like his... He had that really initial core idea, and he shepherded it along the way. We dove deep last week on gameplay, and it was a blast. Go check it out. But now, today, we are here to talk about art, and art direction, and creative direction around this game. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that was great.
Should we dive into it?
Great. I'm glad you remembered the Road to Kickstarter thing, because I
Yeah.
was just ready to start.
No, context. That's
Yeah.
the first thing in my notes. Okay, so... To set the stage a little bit, like where we kind of are at when we start art production on these games. If you go back last week, like we kind of like stay pretty siloed for a while. Like we've got our prototype art, if you will, which is really just like
Which is terrible.
whatever we can throw together in time and just like throw it up on TTS.
Yeah.
And then over here in art world, we're running with it. Like and so we were at this stage where we knew we had a game about a school with monsters, okay? And at this point, it was called Monster Prep Academy. So that's what we were calling it at this time. I'm trying to take you back in time, set the stage for when we started. And we set the schedule. Katie, who's our COO, set a schedule of like, okay, we're going to launch this day. And so we work back from that schedule, and it's like, all right, we started being like, we need to start on some art. We gotta figure out who's going to be making this thing. And so, yeah, pretty loose. We knew there was going to be different factions. We knew we had like, we had these mythics. We've got like zombies and Frankenstein's monsters and wizards and all these different things, but they're high schoolers, right?
Yep.
They're going to a school called Mythic Manor. At the time,
though, it was middle school.
they were Mythic middle schoolers.
Yeah, I'm glad we changed that.
I'm glad we did too. Mythic
Yeah.
Manor still works with the MM. It's great. So we and this really gave us enough to start like this process. And I wanted to back up before we got started and kind of talk just like first, what is our philosophy as a studio for art with our games? Overall, we really want our games, like our past games with Moonrakers and Veiled Fate, we really want them to all have a point of view, like a specific, place that we're coming from, a specific art style that really like, one, like we want to be showing people something they've never really quite seen in the board game space art-wise. Like I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to get lost in the sea of board game art that's out there. But also like with our games in general, we have this goal of like, and I've bought games for both of these reasons. We want you to just be like, if you just saw the art and you were only buying it for the art, you would just buy it for the art. And if the art was awful, you would still buy it for the gameplay. And so those, like, if we're doing both of those things well, I think we'll have a game that will be successful.
It's a high bar.
And so that's where we're starting. Then, and I did write down these little questions. You can ask me the questions if you want to, but you don't. Or else I'm just going to talk this whole time.
This is great. No,
I'm just going to monologue.
I'll send quips. That's good.
So, Zach, how do we structure the staff for the art on these games? This is a great question.
How do we find the artists?
How do we find the artists? So, first of all, we've got creative direction and art direction kind of really happening in-house. And I'm bummed because like we have a great big team. There's 10 full time at Ivy. A lot of that staff is focused on client work. We do a lot of animated work for people like Netflix and Amazon and Bad Robot and Nike, making really cool animated commercials.
Yep.
But then we're able to steal from that like talent pool and have people working, from that on our games and help kind of lead the art from these games. And so you're able to get this talent that works on top tier advertising work, and we're able to apply that to these tabletop games, which is super fun. And I love our team. So I'm going to do my best. I've written down in all these different sections to make sure I call out names of people, because it is not just me, it is not just us. Like, there's a huge team of amazing artists behind all this stuff. And so the first people I'll start with is Max, who's not here with us. He's on vacation. And then Michael, who is moving. So Max is one of the lead designers on the gameplay, and one of the project leads. And then Michael Cribbs is the art director over all of our Ivy studios. So he's in here on all these discussions, leaving notes and stuff, and it's awesome. So I had to call that out. So structuring staff on these things, we typically kind of we'll get to them and look at all kinds of like sketches and all behind the scenes. We typically divide out like illustration and design, and we kind of separate those two a little bit.
Can you describe what those are?
Yeah.
Just because I don't think a lot of people know the difference.
That's great. Yeah. So illustration is going to be like drawings, right? Like actual like character design. It's this thing that you see on the front of our board. Like, this is what we call a key art that our illustrator Amin worked on, and then the graphic design is like kind of the branding around the game. It's the logo. It's what fonts do we choose. It's the type systems. It's the iconography, the things that really communicate things. And so we on this game we had a great partner in All Right Studio. They're based in Brooklyn. We've collaborated with them a ton on. They did Veiled Fate's graphic design. They did Ivy Studios logo, brand mark right here, and that whole system. And then our illustrator was Amin Farah. And he did all of the character design, the illustration you see on the board.
Yeah. And the key art.
Yeah. And we split this up. So a couple of different things. Like, why do we split this up? Why don't we just do this in-house? We have amazing illustrators in-house as well. One of those reasons is every game has such a unique voice. Like, we're trying to build a unique world, and we're trying to find artists that like we would seek them out and we would buy their art just because we love it. And we'll take a look at even some of the artists that we almost went with. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But then, and then design is such a specific thing. Like, our studio is really, really good at a lot of things. Creating a branding system is not one of them. We are not a branding studio. And so we partner with, we really want to build out massive, like, amazing brands around these games. And All Right is super good at that. So that's why we do that. And then next, like, also we kind of want to think like, how do we choose those artists? So looking at our past games, Moonrakers, we had Alex Grendling. The amazing Alex Grendling. Contractually, he put it in there. I have to say it. It is what it is. / Lunar Saloon. He now is working at Bungie, but he did kind of set the whole style and did all of the illustration and design systems for Moonrakers. Veiled Fate. We had Harry Conway doing illustrations for that, and then we met with All Right. But one of the things that we learned on Veiled Fate was like, we have such a high bar of like the illustrators that we have to look for. We actually didn't find Harry right away.
No.
And I wish we had, because it was perfect for the game. Like, I'm like so stoked that we ended up with, but we had such a long list of people, and it just took us forever to find Harry. We reach out to people like, no, I'm booked, or like, no, like, sorry, I can't afford this, which is a bummer.
We even sampled another guy. We hired another creator to make us some example images. So that gives us a little bit of context. So I've got my screen sharing up here. So we actually took a look at we made this huge list of like, let's look at some potential artists. So like, I thought it'd be fun to just look at these, the paths not taken, if it were. And luckily we reached out to Amin like super early. I think we reached out just with like maybe like 3 or 4 of these artists at first, just to see like,
what we learned on Veiled Fate was like the artists that we're trying to work with like probably aren't available, and we're probably going to just have to like reach out to a bunch of people. So I shot an email off to Ollie Moss. I don't know if you know who Ollie Moss is, but he never got back to us. But Ollie, someday maybe we'll work on something together. Go check out his work. He worked on like Half-Life Alyx most recently. He does a ton of cool stuff for Mondo. His posters are amazing.
Mondo makes games, so maybe Ollie will work over there, and then we can.
Yeah, there we go. He did a bunch of art direction on Firewatch and stuff. Anyways, maybe someday we'll get to work with Ollie Moss on something. There was also like I had this idea, Monsieur. I don't know how to say it, but I've been following his work for a while, and I was like, oh, what if these characters were like 3D like from the get-go? Because we knew we wanted to do miniatures, right? And so we're like, what if the printed art like in the game and stuff were looked like the 3D miniatures, and like kind of had this like kind of cutesy kind of 3D CG style.
I love that still.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit too cute.
Yeah, it's
like, and this is a good time to kind of talk about like what we were looking for in this early stage was like we really wanted to. We're blending like two larger feelings. We have this like it's childish. It's like childish in like a rebellious kind of way, like a. They are kids. It's not like that serious. Nobody's dying in this game. It's not like violent, really.
Although I usually refer to the Tonekeeper catching people.
I know,
kills.
it's like
Like, catches.
They catch us.
Kills.
No one. This is a non-violent game, ish. But we also want to have that like edge to it because they are monsters. Like they're all like technically kind of could be villains or like so we kind of want something. So this was maybe like a little bit too cutesy. And then there's this guy Roman we reached out to and just didn't end up working out, but he had like a really cool kind of like balanced that well with like these really cool colors and but like it still is kind of like gross a little bit like in a wonderful way.
It's definitely not as cute, and it leaves you like
the
illustration parts.
We had Daniel Mackey. He like has this, it's like kind of vectory, kind of a little bit simpler style. He does these like really cool, he's this really cool Pokemon series that I love. That was like, we've got all these characters, like this could be a cool approach. This one was like
Alexei?
Yeah, he's
one
from Russia. I know.
I was
they're like kids in school. It's like, oh, this could be cool.
It's too real for me.
But like some of his stuff like had like this range of being like a little bit more like kind of painterly, which I liked. Andres, I don't think we reached out to Andres, but I still love his work. He's just like a really distinct style. It's like super, it's got these boxy, like really pushed proportions. I love me some tiny heads. If you look at Veiled Fate, tiny heads. And then Danny Diaz. Actually, we talked to Danny a little bit, I think, about doing Veiled Fate. It didn't end up working out.
Real fast, question from the audience, Sebastian says, and the choice for having more childish approach, was that to suit the target audience or the game, or for the game, or was it more due to the theme? So the target audience for the game is not children. It is a 14 plus targeted at adults, the same audience that Moonrakers and Veiled Fate has. And so it's definitely not the target audience. It definitely is more for the theme, if you want to touch on that,
No, it's a great question. It all stemmed from that like initial story. Like if you watched our episode last week, we talked about how like initially there wasn't even the monsters aspect of it. It was literally called Clicks. It was a game about high schoolers or middle schoolers. And so like it really had this like schoolyard approach, and so like that's always really been baked into the feeling. But like one of the reasons we even added in the monster element to it all was like we do want to age it up. Like the target range for like or the target age for board gamers in general is a bit older, and so like how can we step that up? Which brings us to Amin. I think that his work in general, like it has that like kind of childish or like cute or like
there's
that quality to it, but it's also like very much for adults and like has like a bit of an edge to it. And he really brought that to the final look of things. Here was another road not taken that I'm certain we couldn't afford that we never reached out to, but it was like these ridiculously like beautifully rendered like 3D versions of characters. Yeah, I even said it right here. Likely not affordable. But yeah, so okay, we made that list. We landed on Amin. We worked it out with like schedules and all that stuff, and we were super stoked. Like he was top of our list, really. And yeah, we started moving forward. We actually started with some direction that we sent over to Amin. Amin's kind of was tasked with illustrating all of our key art. So we did a few different key art. Those are things like the box cover or like wallpapers for like desktops, that kind of thing.
The rulebook cover image.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And then the other big deliverable was the board illustration. And then the largest of them all was all of our characters. We knew we wanted to have at least 6 factions with 3 characters each in them. That was kind of well defined. So that's what we got started on. And so we gave, we had some style references. We use a tool called Millinote. We put together a bunch of references just around like his work and left a bunch of notes on just like, what do we like about like your work and maybe what are some things that, in your work that isn't going to quite work for our setting. We had some other kind of style references that we liked for some other things. And then from there, we also gave him some direction for kind of each of our factions. And so as you can see, we've got our 6, our 4 main factions that come in the box, and then our 2 expansion factions. And so like one of the fun things was all of these factions are kind of paired with a classic trope of high school clique or group. So like the vampires, obviously they are vampires, but they are also the greasers. And so we put together references around what each of those factions might be. We got the Franks, the Frankenstein's monsters, which are jocks, and the wizards, which are our classic nerds. The little Silicon Valley reference up there. The kids from Stranger Things.
I love that the Vote for Pedro reference made it in.
Oh, it did make it in. I forgot about that.
The Wizards has a Vote for Me.
That's right, in that like same font. I honestly did not even realize that that's where that came from, but that's amazing. I was just like, I love that.
Where the ghosts are, and you should touch on that after this, just like how that got added.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm on it. The zombies are the skater kids, and witches are the mean girls / fashionistas. The trolls are the drama kids, and so we put together, written direction, but also like a bunch of kind of mood boards for Amin to get started on. So to touch on the ghost actually got added like kind of after everything had been done, pretty much. Like it was just like, what, we want like maybe a Kickstarter exclusive or this extra faction that like we can maybe give away or something. I don't know if any of this has been announced, but
the ghost faction it spawned because we had more ideas on faction powers basically, and then we had those ideas and we were kind of thinking, how do we make the Kickstarter special? Like, what do we give? And this is going away from art and more to a strategy. So that'll be a future week where we talk more about the strategy behind things. But because of that, the Ghosts ended up being a not Kickstarter exclusive, but a Kickstarter free faction for the campaign. And so we came to Amin and we're like, hey, we actually have one more faction that we want to do illustrations for if you can add it on. And it actually was pretty close on his schedule that he almost wasn't able to do.
Oh, yeah. I think he went over and worked on a different project and came back. So then we sent over, and I'm meaning like Nate, one of our other creative directors, and Max and Austin and Michael, our art director, kind of assembled this key art direction. So we had 3 main key arts, and we'll show you kind of how all these went through sketches and finals and all that stuff. So our key art number 1, this is really the most important thing, like in general. It's the box art. Like what's going to go on this box? From our past games is like, from an advertising standpoint, it is the thing that brings people in. Yep. It's the thing that like performs best in advertising. It's going to go everywhere. It's going to be the cover of our Kickstarter. So there's like this. I always get nervous about this because like it's got to be great. So we pulled this image as an example from Amin's work, just like loving like how there's a really nice clear central focus. There's like a towering villain and a hero at the center, and love the exaggerated proportions of the trees wrapping around it. And then I usually don't do sketches. Usually leave this to the professionals like Michael and Nate. But I did a little sketch of like maybe what I thought it could be. Like I really wanted to find a way to kind of bring the narrative of the game into one image on the cover. And it's interesting because if you've seen the cover, you know this is not the direction we went. But so we got like the big ominous tome keeper who's roaming the library, and then the mythics, the mischiefs, kind of hanging out, hiding. Maybe like they're getting up to something, setting a trap or doing something like that. Did a couple like different like test iterations on this, maybe flipping it where like there's one caught here in the center and the tome keeper's shadows kind of casting over them, and then here's a more dynamic version based on an idea that Max had, was like maybe love these characters, but these are just temp characters in Unity, and so like maybe the shadows being kind of cast on this back wall, and we can see more people in the foreground. Anyways, that was the idea for that. We kind of sent along some reference images of what the library might look like. We referenced like Harvard's library and just a bunch of other things. Just Googling old libraries, Harvard libraries, and then
real fast, Sebastian. That is the tome keeper. That is the silhouette. And then the students and other things are hiding within that silhouette. But yes.
So, and then also sent along, Moonrakers and Veiled Fate, all that stuff from our past ones. So key art number 2, you can see this over on our website, kind of where it ended up, and we'll talk about it as well. But we always loved, most of us working on this game, really love the show Community. I always remember this image standing out a lot. So we're like, that'd be really fun to do kind of an homage and our kind of take on this Community key art. And then our third key art. This was kind of a wild card. Didn't really know what it was going to be. We knew we wanted something that was a bit more graphic. This was an example from Amin's work, but then we pulled some of these Mondo posters that we really love. I believe both of these are actually by Ollie Moss. Just like some kind of bigger silhouette with like a lot of other stuff happening inside of it. And then finally, we had some direction kind of given over to Amin around the board. This is a good example of like where we were at the time. This is just the temp art, 5x5 grid.
Points only went to 6.
Yeah, back then. Yeah, and now go to 10. They only went to 6 back then. But this roughly stayed pretty much the same. There's a centerfold here right down the middle. And then the board, we really didn't know how we wanted to approach the board, honestly. We had like Gungeon references, because it's like, how do you do, it's just a top-down board. You can't have a lot of stuff in there because like it can't be too busy. The players, or the mythics need to like kind of roam it. This Hades reference, just like love how, like there's some lighting in here, but it's not too busy either, which is really nice. Yeah. Is there a question?
Yeah, so Felix asked, where do you look for artists and what does that process look like? And then he said, are you using Behance and Dribbble to find them? Or do you have a better place where you're looking? It's a lot of Zach spending time on Pinterest. And other places. I say actually Instagram, probably. And it's not really like... Nice.
I mean, like part of my job as well too is like I staff just like a ton of commercial projects and like work with our producers. And so like really it's a collaborative effort. Nate was the one of our other creative directors, has been a fan of Amin for a really long time, and we've been looking for a project to work with him on for years now. And so like it's really just like this kind of collective, like I'm just always looking for new artists constantly. But yeah, Instagram, Behance, ArtStation quite a bit, and Pinterest less and less. I usually
I feel like we were on Pinterest more for Veiled Fate and then kind of went away from it.
I feel like it's fallen. I don't know. Behance has become really great, a great place.
What made me
Instagram
laugh
has become
is
really great.
In our first call with Harry for the Veiled Fate art, he was like, I actually just got finished something with Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah.
And we had no idea when we reached out to him that he was already in the board game space. And he did a really cool Dungeons & Dragons thing if you haven't seen that. But yeah.
And then actually, our board kind of got cracked a little bit by this reference image that Austin sent along.
I did something, guys.
So like it was like this really cool, it's top down, but but you can still see the sides of the buildings. And like we had space along the sides of the board, and we're like, what kind of perspective are we going to be at that like we can see the sides of the walls of the library, but it's also top down. And so I think this image was kind of like really crucial, kind of cracking that code. So way to go, Austin.
Thanks. I did something.
Okay, so going in, let's look at some sketches. We're going to come back out to this beautiful presentation document called Finder. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So after kind of sending all those out, the first thing we really wanted to get going on was the characters. That was the thing that we knew was kind of locked in. And these were the initial sketches that came back for these characters. So early feedback was like, they're a little bit too childish. I think my initial direction kind of pushed him a little bit away from his like kind of natural styling. So that was a lot of our direction back towards them.
I love how some of them are so different. And
Yeah.
some of them are actually pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, like the background troll there
Yep.
is actually still pretty close.
Oh yeah, no, it's the same silhouette, a lot of
Yeah.
same choices, and like a lot of the big stylization choices stayed the same kind of throughout. Like this guy still ended up with a really big mouth.
Yeah, but not that big.
No, not that big, and like the characters generally kind of stayed the same.
It's just, their proportions definitely changed.
Yeah, the zombies probably changed the least, honestly. They looked great kind of right away.
Yeah, the wizards didn't change too much either.
Yeah, I mean, we were in the ballpark for sure. And then, so gave a little bit of feedback, and then went into kind of a refined sketch pass, which this is honestly pretty. I mean, he nailed it. Like it was pretty reflective of where we ended up. Oh, little sneak peek at the ghosts.
Oh, yeah,
this is
look
a
at
little bit
that.
later.
Casper.
Yeah, so the initial take on the
nice.
ghost was they had feet. And I was like, these do not.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm sorry,
all
these
of
are
us were
great
like,
drawings. These are
ghosts
great
do not
drawings.
have feet.
But they should look more like this.
Yeah.
Less feet, more Casper. And then he sent this back and we're like,
Nailed
golden,
it.
you got it.
Yeah. I still love that the one is obsessed with cats.
Oh, yeah.
Cat shirt on.
No, it's great.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, and then moving along, I can kind of
Alex from Board Game Code just came in and said,
Oh, nice.
Oh, that art looks terrible. I can't believe you're releasing a game that looks like that. I think he's being totally serious. I think we should change everything.
I know. We'll get started on some new art. Make the call to a mean.
This is finals.
Yeah, this is finals. You can go see all these over on our Instagram and on mythicmischief.com if you want to take a kind of a closer look. But then this is the final rendering and coloring.
Yeah.
So next up we have got what do we have next? Oh, this was fun. We did this was part of the initial sketch phase that he sent in. Was just like some really quick loose thumbnails of ideas that we could be using, and we referenced like a few of these, but in some of our revisions on those. The one thing I didn't show though that we need to talk about is the evolution of the teacher.
It was originally called the Teacher. The Tomekeeper name came after this time because we were still calling it the Teacher for a while during this.
So here's where we ended up, but it actually started like this. Pretty different.
Not terrifying at all.
No, so yeah, basically we came back on this and we're just like, this. I mean, he might be terrifying in real life. I don't know what his
I wouldn't want to take a
personality
class.
is. No. But we were like, let's try something that is a bit more ominous, and so we really wanted this kind of like this upward shape. That also, like with the miniature, we also knew that we wanted it to be the biggest miniature on the board. We really wanted to have like a super commanding presence. And so we needed the base to be pretty small and just by necessity kind of have this upward, looming shape as it gets taller and taller. Totally. And I love where we ended up with the Tomekeeper.
Wasn't that Michael that was like, this guy needs like a stack of books?
Yeah, so we were like, maybe he's pushing a cart or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I could see pushing a cart around, like get a little more theme in there. But it's like we're not gonna be able to fit a cart on that miniature base.
Yeah, it was too big.
So then early take on like that like kind of shape I was talking about, definitely better. but then kind of move towards the final.
The final, and a couple of the pencil test or whatever you call it, a version of that, looks like Imperial almost to me. Like it's like a Star Wars villain to me. I don't know why, but yeah.
I mean, that's great. Star Wars villains are like some of the most iconic designs of all time. So it's very.
Plus, I'm a Star Wars nerd.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Alex, the Ghosts characters are actually they're not a stretch goal. They are a free faction on the Kickstarter. So if you back at the core pledge or above, it's a free faction. We actually had the boards here, but I didn't have time to print the minis, so you never got to see them. We just printed the minis, so they look great
ready
to be played with now.
So let's talk board real quick. So this is the first sketch that we got back, which was pretty spot on.
Yeah, it was very close.
We didn't have a lot of changes from here. We ended up adding like the Mythic Mischief logo to the center and stuff. We're still like there's a version where we got like a little bit more lighting. It's pretty contrasty.
Yeah.
And we lessened that a little bit just for like board readability and stuff like that.
Yep. I think the other board would have been fine.
That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah,
and
right here.
Now I'm used to it again, so I'm like, do we go back?
No, I like the new version more.
Let's let the people decide. Vote. No, just
don't do that.
Don't do that. You'll give me even more cause to second guess my decisions. All right, moving on to key art. Okay, so
the key art we worked on this so much.
We really did. It's been an adventure. So here's the first sketch that came back, and really we really battled on this one for a while. Not like against anyone, just like against art, like just against the creation process. It was just like it's so busy. It's really hard to like focus on like what's going on. Tried another sketch. Still felt busy. Like even to me, it was like, I don't know if I'm liking this composition, you guys. Like, and this was my baby. I was like, we got to have this scene. Like, we got to do this. It's going to be this great moment. It
looks cool. It's just there's a lot going on. You're not really sure what to focus on.
And it's a bit of a departure from like the art direction of our key art in our previous games. Like they've been really graphic, and by that I mean like simple, like really clean almost. And this is like, I was like, I think it'd be really cool to have something really dense and busy. But then like he's like just shoving, just plain pushing him.
Yeah. I love that it just says name because we still didn't have Mythic Mischief at this point. It just says name at the top.
It says Mythic Mischief at the bottom.
You added that. I definitely just says name at the top.
No, we didn't have our logo yet. That's why it just says name. And then
it took us a while to name.
Oh, it did. It did. Then an updated sketch. We had like more of the. Instead of pushing, it was like kind of more of a power
logo.
Another iteration on it, and then
that one made it.
Yeah, that one made it. Then that's where we kind of ended up. But what in the world?
I don't know.
I keep wanting to press Control F for full screen, but this is where we ended up. And we decided to not make it the box art. It does live on our rule book.
It is on the rule book. Yep.
But as soon as we got started on key art number 3, we were like, this is it. This is going to be our box art. Not that one.
It's number 2.
Yeah, sure. It was. So we got the sketch back, and I was just like, I think this is going to be our box art. Like, I didn't even know what we were going to use this for. This was just like I want a third key art, almost like just for safety. And we're like, man, this is.
You always can use
cool.
it somewhere. You can use it on the Kickstarter page,
exactly.
Rule book.
And then so here's where we. Dang, I did it again.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, so here's where we ended up with our box art. I don't know. I'm really pleased with it. It is like a little bit simplified version of everything else in the game, but I think it just really stands out on a feed, which is super important.
Question from Bobby, our friend Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby wants to know what does key art mean for the uninitiated?
Oh yes, key art. Just key as in like.
Main?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. We make our own terms. It's probably not even a real thing. But it's just like, main art that like almost doesn't really have like a specific function. It's just like this art is here to represent overall our game, and we kind of lump the box art into that.
Generally, like art, when you're talking about the game, has like a use. Like it's like a faction board, or the character illustrations, whereas like key art is more for use in marketing than it is for gameplay, in my mind. But yeah.
Definitely. All right, I think That's everything on illustration.
All right.
We showed off all the finals. That was everything that being delivered. He did amazing work. And one thing that you didn't see throughout all this is our wonderful art director, Michael Cribb, did just a ton of drawovers throughout this whole thing and really guided this whole process. And
the only time I got to see it was on the back of the Tome Keeper. It said like add books. And like Michael would go through every illustration and draw over top of it and kind of just like add thoughts. And it improves the process so much rather than just us saying, can you add books? Like he actually draws the books on there, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So every day, me and Michael, just like every day, every time we got a feedback, me and Michael, he lives down in Texas, now moving to New York.
They wanted to see Key Art 3.
Oh, Key Art 3. Oh, thank you. And we would just collaborate on all that. And Michael would do these amazing drawovers that really pushed everything. So here's the first sketch back. This is one of those great instances with no notes. No notes at all, because it was exactly what we were looking for. So we straight up went from this to the final. And I don't think I had any notes on the final either.
And if you like that,
amazing.
You can go to the Discord, and there is a pinned item there that will give it to you as,
as a wallpaper?
It's a wallpaper, but I have so many notifications, I literally can't show it.
You're blowing up, man.
There we go.
It's tiny.
It's very tiny.
But because it's not full screen over there. But yes, there is a wallpaper there. All right, next up, the design process. So this is us. We worked with All Right.
Can I cut you off?
Yeah, please.
Fast?
Yeah.
Brian asked, will there be any backstory and/or comics to go along with the factions and their interactions at the school? So there will not be a comic in the game. In the rule book, however, there are backstories for every single character. And so there's a little story that goes with each of them that Nate wrote.
Yep.
And I was giggling the entire time reading even just the first drafts of those.
Oh, yeah.
That was a blast to read.
No, it's amazing.
And so, yeah, definitely check those out when the rule book posts, which will be probably pretty soon. And it will definitely be on the campaign page, if nothing else. So.
And we try, I mean, like we're really invested in like all of our little worlds that we're making, whether, in all of our 3 games. And so like, we really hope that this is just the beginning of the Mythic Mischief and Mythic Manor world. So hopefully we'll be able to do stuff like that, but we'll see how everybody responds to it.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, design. We got to do logos. We got to get some fonts in here. We got to get our color systems all worked out, and we turn to the wonderful professionals over in Brooklyn, All Right Studio.
Can you tease what's after that, just real fast?
Yes. Oh, yeah. What's coming? We're going to look at modeling. We're going to look at modeling for the 3D minis. We're going to talk about Austin's just joyous time of printing miniatures, and then the last thing we've got a look at the very first look ever of the animations. We've made 4 animated shorts for this, so we're going to show an early look at that when the audio's not done. Sorry, Cody and Wes, but the visuals are 99% done. So we're going to look at those later. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sneak peek.
But first, a path not taken on Mythic Mischief logo.
I really liked it, but I fought hard against it.
Why did you fight hard against it? Tell me about that. It's not readable.
It's not readable.
It says Mythic Mischief.
This is where I come in, and that's just, I have the job of raining on everybody's parade always, because I come in and tell them a reason why we shouldn't do it. And that's basically my job.
That is also my job. That's everyone's job.
Okay. Why am I worse then?
No, you're not. You're not worse. You're not worse at all. I love someone just called out Loki because
we were first.
We were same-ish time.
Yeah.
It was funny because like you sent it to your sister and she was like, "Have you seen this Loki trailer?" And I was like, "Oh wow, it looks so similar to Loki. It really does."
That's funny.
I don't know. I really struggle with this, man.
So I was like, the T's not readable, and you're like, it's literally like the New York Times.
Yeah, it's like,
how is it not readable?
I don't know. What do you all think? Is it readable? It doesn't matter because we didn't do this.
Mythic Mischief.
I had so much thought about this, and this gets like a little bit too meta. I think it is such an interesting and bold choice for a logo. Like it breaks a ton of like traditional graphic design rules of just like you use one font. Like you shouldn't use a lot of fonts, and they're expertly kind of mixing and matching different fonts, and it gives this like wonderful kind of collage feel, which is cool.
Ian said it's readable once you know what it says.
Exactly.
That's what I said.
Exactly.
That's not okay.
I know. Well, you didn't go this direction, Austin. You won, okay? You don't need to rub it in.
I didn't win.
No, I ultimately agreed with you because it ultimately was my call, and we decided to go away from it. Yeah. I really like this kind of simplified take on it, but
it looks awesome.
But yeah, some of the things, and you can see where we ended, but some of the things that we really liked about it was like these big chunky kind of varsity letters and this kind of gothic feel that felt spooky, but also like kind of Harvard-y, super fun. Another big takeaway that like really didn't change all that much were these 2 marks that they pitched us on this first iteration, which was super cool. We're like, oh, we gotta have those. Those are perfect. We're gonna keep those M's as they are. They also set up our type system. They are the best.
I love these names for
we got Chomsky, we got Behemoth, and we got FF Mark Pro.
Yeah.
The first pick, I was like, oh yeah, these are the fonts. These are great. Not often you get to use a Gothic font like this, and it's perfect for this. Really helps it stand apart from other games because you don't see a lot of it in the games world. And then also a kind of stab at our color palette early on.
Yeah.
We made some tweaks to this as we went.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that was the first look at it.
This is design review number 2?
This is design review number 2. They came back with pretty close to where we ended up. We kind of were just like, hey, like this is super cool. I a little bit regret not going with it. Not really, but they came.
It was cool.
It was cool. They came back with this as a little bit more approachable, definitely more readable. Some of the things that I'm really excited about, like I love this, like kind of the hook of the Y.
Yeah.
It kind of has like a monster tail kind of feel to it,
Yeah.
and then it is kind of mirrored with the H down here. Everything sits together really, really nicely. I sent them an idea earlier of just like what if we like these almost look like ears to me, but like we reversed them and like kind of put them and like maybe put like some eyes in there or something like that. It didn't work. They tried it. See like here's that like slanty way, and they were like, this one did not feel good to us. And, they were right. So yeah, this is where we ended up on our logo.
Yeah.
Somebody much prefers the new logo. Yeah.
Some people are saying I see MICHF and then some filler text in between that. That was Alex. So that's all I can read.
No, it's fair. This one is much more readable, and I love it. I think it turned out really well. Then they took an early stab at the kind of design language. They came up with this idea of doing some faction logos and like even these like letters, which are kind of these custom glyphs.
Yeah,
which
can you go back to that real fast?
Yeah.
It's actually a clue on where we were at in the game process, and where we were at with art, because they have designs there for Bell.
Yep.
And that means Bell was still in the game at the time that they did this. And so, I mean, that got stripped out in February or March, probably.
Yeah.
So, it's funny to kind of see those, because there is overlap. You start with gameplay, and then the art has to start at some point. It's not going to be done in time. So,
Yep.
Oh, man.
Sort of pairing it with some of Amin's illustrations just to make sure it was looking good together. The vampires and the witches and the wizards, the zombies, the trolls, and then an early take on the player boards, which was pretty much there. We ended up adding like a lot more of these etchings, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Then they added the score tracker to the board. First stab at these cards. I remember looking at these cards and I loved everything about them. And I honestly was going to just approve it straight up. But then I think it was Sam was like, that looks like a baguette. like a bag of bread. And then that's all I could see forever.
I never heard that feedback.
Really?
That's so funny. Yeah.
Maybe
I
you
must
were
have been out of the office or something.
Oh no, it's just like, okay,
that's
cool.
So great.
Yep, it looks like a bag of bread. And so they were generous enough to change that for us on the next round. Then we had some token designs. Yeah. We have our clutter, which goes throughout the board, and it takes one extra movement point.
Yeah, I remember the first call where we were talking about just the shapes on those because we loved the way they were looking. And I was like, oh man, if the clutter is the same shape as everything else, you won't be able to see it.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's where we get into iteration number 3. So we locked down the branding and all that stuff. And so now we were just kind of honing in. We gave some feedback on like clarity of the moves.
Bell's gone.
The bell's gone. It's now distract. And so we got an updated version of these, and then we really loved those etchings that they did on the before and after lunch cards. We're like, let's bring some of that into this, which really love how that turned out. We played with adding some branding to the board. Ultimately, decided against it because it's getting pretty. Busy. It's just not necessary.
Yeah,
you know what the name of the game is. Oh yeah, it was really dark. And then no more baguette.
Yeah, no more baguette. Now it's a tome keeper.
Now it's the tome keeper.
You can still see the baguette if you look real hard.
Yeah, the baguette's in there, just smaller.
Yeah, just smaller and it's a head. So Felix asked, will the player boards be dual layered? Yes, they will be. The dice would be really annoying to manage if they weren't.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, dice? There's dice in this game?
And then the consideration on tomes on the board. This was still in a previous iteration of the destinations, but started to look at how these things were going to stack. So over here on the number 4 slot, we see like the figure size, which is 25 millimeters diameter. We wanted to be able to see like, okay, if you've got a portal under there, will you be able to see that? Then if you've got also just so happens to be a destination under there, like, can you see that? Then underneath that, it's like, clutter that's going to stay at the bottom. So it's like, can you see all of them? So one of the things we actually took away from this was like, what if instead of, so like we can see everything, but it'd be nice to be able to make out more of the like the 1, 2, 3 destination. There are 3 destinations on the board, and so from this we were actually like, let's move to Roman numerals because if those the 1, 2s, and 3s are sticking out, you could still know what numbers under there, even when everything's kind of stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, and this is a really amazing thing that All Right did for us, where it just they jumped ahead and were thinking about this, and it really helped us kind of just like think through how things were going to be on the board because we'd been playing on TTS.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the sizing wasn't.
Oh yeah, we were like, I was constantly mocking stuff up in like Cinema 4D, like putting in the millimeters and just like, I think this will all work together. Yeah. And
that happens so rarely though. How often do you see 4 things on one space?
It almost never happens. But like, it's good to know that when it will, it does occasionally happen, it still functions and it's not as clumsy. I was really worried about it for a long time, honestly.
Until we got the prototypes, I was worried about it.
It was literally the influencer weekend where we had Quackalope here and we had Becca Scott, Mark Street, like just so many people, and like it was like that. I walked onto the set of that thing and it was like the day before, and it was the first time I had all seen it in person, and like I remember just thinking it's so big.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the board was so much bigger than like in my mind.
In my mind, everything was so tiny, and I was so worried about all these fiddly little pieces, and that it was going to be such a pain, and like pain to move all the things, but it worked out. What else we got here? And then an early take on how the logo is going to sit. We were really trying to think like how do we need to like. We have this color palette that's like pretty tight across our whole game, and like this is one of the things that maybe doesn't work as it ends up working, but it's like tricky. Is our illustrator and our design team are kind of running simultaneously, but like the color is kind of just being worked out in there. So we played a lot with color correcting the logo and like how does that fit with the box art and stuff. This was an early take on that. We got where we needed to be, but yeah, and then that's all of the design check-ins, and then I've just got like the final look of where we made it.
One thing you didn't
which
mention
is all over on our Instagram. So.
About the logo is those irreverent illustrations, and it's this basically the like tagging element over top of the logos.
Yeah, like these, especially these like the W on the
wizards.
The wizards, which is really great. And we can kind of use those, and you'll see those kind of show up throughout our collateral on like social media and the Kickstarter and our webpage and all that stuff. But I just love these little brand systems almost that like we have for each house. And one of the concepts that we were talking about with Mike, who illustrated these, was like they're not kids. Like we wanted these to be like if you were in like I know like high schools don't have like sororities and with the male version of a sorority. Fraternity, yes. Yeah. Clearly, I was in one. No. It was like what? Like it would be like what's the like the cool adult version of like a wizard?
Yeah.
Like, what's the cool adult version of a zombie or a witch? And like a Frankenstein. Like, this is what these kids are going to be when they grow up. And it's like a house almost. Like, it's like the house of Frankensteins. And these letter forms are just so brilliant. Like, hats off to All Right and I think Mike specifically on these. Yeah. Like, it's a Z, but it's also a zombie, and it can stand on its own as like a letter, but also like a graffiti mark. I just love how they came out. You can see all these over on our Instagram in more detail. And there's so much that went into these, just like the design systems around all these icons, and we could talk about it forever, but we should probably move on. Probably. All right, next up we've got modeling. Wait, a couple names before we move on. Garrett DeRosit, we got Maddie Goldsmith and Mike Dockery. Those are the key people we worked with over at All Right. Thank you, wonderful work. We're still working with them. They're getting sick of us, but it's going to be great.
Yeah,
we'll be done soon.
When you get to the end of the project, it's always that final stretch.
The rule book. That's really it.
Man.
All right, Connor Snow on the modeling. So not finals. We started with, we sent turnarounds, which I mean sketched. I wish I would have brought some turnarounds to this, but they're basically just sketches of the front, the side, and the back. And we sent those over to Connor, who started modeling, and these were some of the first ones that we got back. We even did some like color ones. I think this was literally the first one that we got back. And it's kind of fun to see him in color. It was the wrong color because I think we had just done him the sketches. Yep. But yeah, then Michael and I, mostly Michael, got to work just doing drawovers, and we did drawovers. I mean, how many miniatures are in this game?
21.
22 miniatures in this game. Yeah, 22.
And if you don't count the bookcases.
Yep. Oh, and then the bookcases.
And
yep.
the tomes.
But just so much of this. We worked on these things for so long just to make these work, and we're still working on them. Like, we're still making tweaks to them, which is great and a lot of fun. I love how they turned out. These miniatures look even better in person. A little fun tidbit, not so fun tidbit, honestly, is the way that these things are made. It's something that like probably a lot of people do not know, is you have a top mold and a bottom mold. And you don't necessarily have to situate it like this, but your molds have to be able to lift off of the model. And so like lips, like underneath their hat here, like you would not be able to pull it off. And so there's something like we constantly had to like kind of, it's like this is what the mold would kind of look like. And it's like, you couldn't pull this up because it would break the model. And so like we had to kind of
And these minis aren't cast or molded. They are 3D printed.
The minis that are here in front of us.
The minis are here in front of us. And so there are things about these that would make them hard to cast in mass production. And so we have to do, and are currently doing, a round of revisions now to get them ready for production. Yep.
And so Austin has been very diligently, whoops, this is the wrong image, but talk a little bit about your 3D printing life.
Yeah, so we had to move suddenly, and I was out on paternity leave, and the movers didn't prep the 3D printer before they moved in. And so they turned it on its side with a full resin tank and cartridge in it, and resin had hardened everywhere.
In my garage.
In Zach's garage, in my car, like in the box it was in. And it was just an absolute mess. And so we were like, oh man, this 3D printer may not work. And so I spent maybe 12 hours cleaning it out and had to just grease everything, and it was just a mess. But we realized that we wanted to make between 15 and 20 games, and each game had potentially, it didn't have 21 of the faction minis because we didn't do the ghosts, so it had 18 minis plus the Tome Keeper, so 19 minis.
Yeah.
And that many games is a
so
lot.
Many games,
it's like 300 minis or something like that I had to print. On top of that, I needed the tomes and the bookcases. There's 10 bookcases in every game. And so I realized that the 3D printer was going to have to be printing around the clock. And so it is at my house, and my wife has been amazing letting us keep it there. But if it wasn't at my house, I'd have been driving into this office at midnight to start prints and stuff. Yeah. And so It literally runs 24, probably actually 23 hours a day, and has been for the last 2 months.
Yeah, honestly, for how much work you've been putting on that form, like, I'm impressed.
Oh, I'm impressed that it's held up
with its upkeep,
especially because it
hasn't been
got
without
destroyed.
issues,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but those are probably honestly like, I mean, you fail prints. That's just like a part of
it's
3D
a part of
printing.
it. Yep.
And man, I
The
just
colors though. It's
Yeah.
amazing that it was able to do these colors.
yeah, the colors look fantastic and pretty well matched.
None of this
honestly.
is painted. All of this
Yeah.
is cast, or not, sorry, and printed in this color.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been really impressed with that it's able to do that.
And I'm like, I don't know, it's hard to pick a favorite thing about this game, but the Tome Keeper's like presence on the board is like everything I like hoped it would be. It's so like wonderfully dense and heavy and like looming over all the things. Like there's so many great details in these books, and I think those are going to come out really well. They came out really well in this print, and I'm sure they'll come out just as well in the manufacturing final run.
If you're curious about the process of the 3D printing, it's a Form 3 is the type of 3D printer. It has a tank of resin and a laser that shoots up and heats it and molds it. And so molding's the wrong term. It like hardens it with the laser. It is very different than like filament 3D printing where it's like doing like a stack it's building on each other. So you should check it out. It's really cool.
And then there it is, the final box with all the, it all came together. We made it.
Usually in the middle, it doesn't feel like it's going to.
No, never. Still doesn't. You know, it's just we're doing our best over here. So yeah, there still are so many things we didn't even talk about, like expansion boxes and rule books and the tome designs and the bookshelf. Like there's just so much that goes into making a game. It is a blast. There are just a billion decisions to make.
Yeah. Rule book especially is super annoying because you finish it and you like it and the design's done and it's like the perfect number of pages, and then you do playtesting more after that and you're like, wow, there's like 8 rules that aren't in this rule book. And so you have to go back to the design team and be like, we need 2 more pages, we need the solo mode to go in this rule book. Like, it's just like so many different things that you forget along the way, and everything's a moving target while you're working on it. And so it's thank you to All Right and all of our partners, and really all of our playtesters too that have to use bad rule books to figure out what's wrong.
It's great. All right, so last thing we can talk about. And the other things too. Sorry, the website and the Instagram posts, and like Sam develops our website, and that takes just a ton of work. And All Right did the design work on that, and like people from our Discord too. Dane and Bobby doing the TTS mod, and then Dane doing design work for us. And Dane's been coming in. We're working on the solo mode right now.
Yep.
He's been designing those, and it looks fantastic and really fits the feel of the game, which is great. So lastly, very excited about these things. So every year, like we're game, same thing at the moment. We try and do like a big animation. Like that's where we came from. That's what we love to do. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a tease, but also even like a look behind the scenes in how these work. So this time around, like in past campaigns, we've done like a big kind of opener for our Kickstarter video, which is fine. I love how they came out. We did a really cool one for Veiled Fate.
Moonraker's the path to the
Moonraker's the path through the spaceships.
Yeah.
Super cool.
That's fun.
But also like we want to do something this time that had like maybe a bit more flexibility. We could use for ads and little interstitials here throughout. And so this time we decided to do 4 like mini shorts. And we just we pitched a bunch of ideas as a team, and pitched some different ideas, like little moments in the game that show off kind of like gameplay in like a very like narrative sense, sell the feeling of the game, but also like really show off like this game's all about like asymmetric factions like doing their thing in their own way. And so
real fast before you start, Ian, these are first time anyone is able to see them. We're going to show you early version and the final version. And that'll be almost final.
Yeah, almost final.
That'll be the only time you'll see it until they become ads.
It's the only time you'll ever see them. We'll never use them again.
This is the first time you've ever been able to see them.
This is the first time you'd have been able to see them. We'll start running them as ads soon. They'll be on the Kickstarter page. They'll be in different places. So this is first stage. This is, the directors on this one, we had Michael Cribbs directed one, Nate directed one, I directed a couple. We had Kelly Nakamura on illustrating characters and Michael doing the backgrounds, Rachel Lovin producing these, and then we had Nada Metluck doing animation, and Agris Kars.
It's a hard one.
I'm so sorry, Nada and Agris. You are both amazing, and I'm sorry if I got your names wrong. I was just calling by your first name. All right, so first up, this is what's called an animatic. I believe Michael or Kelly drew these storyboards, and then we loosely put them in an animatic, just to kind of give some like general timing. I wanted to do this wizard spot where the Tomekeeper's coming for her. She's trying to cast a spell. She finally gets it, teleports, and then the Frank ends up in front of them. So that's an animatic. Then we move to something called a pencil test. So this is, the animators get involved now. All these are drawn frame by frame, meaning they draw lots of frames. So this is just the quickest version, just to make sure it's all flowing well. And I believe we had Nada on this one. So now the characters have a bit more movement. It's a little bit more fluid. It's starting to come together. And then, if this feels a little bit about that, like a little bit like that draw the rest of the owl type thing. Well, let me show the other pencil test first. We got this Vamps one, turns into a bat, drops down, scares the poor troll, getting lured. I should have done music for these, but it's fine.
I'm glad it's going to be music at the bottom.
Yeah.
At the end.
And then, and so if you're wondering what directing...
Do the witches pencil first.
Okay, yeah. So this is the pencil test on the witches. Nate was directing this one. We kind of wanted this like kind of witch/anime girl vibe, zooming into the eye at the end here. And then, so if you're wondering what directing animation looks like, it's mostly just this. It's just me, like, what if they like stepped out to the side like this?
Also
in my
a little bit of your
sweatpants.
shelfie there.
Yeah. We're not gonna look at that for too long. Don't look at my house. All right, so final videos. I think we've got some to be queued up. Let's start with
the witches, since we just
sure. Start with the witches. We can go full screen. One more time, because I was talking over it.
All right, we'll play it again.
Love it. All right, great job,
Wizards.
team. Wizards, up next. You missed the first shot. Start it over.
I'm trying. All right. And then we have the zombies.
Zombies.
For that one?
Yep, and then I'll throw up the fourth.
I'm going to back up again. Nice. And then finally we have... It hasn't quite loaded yet.
Oh, okay.
It'll load in a second.
Thanks for watching these with us, everybody. I'm really proud of these.
Brian
I think
wants
they
to
came
know
out
who
well.
did the music.
Great question. So we got Wes and team doing sound design, and Cody Fry on the music. The music is not done yet. I'm actually going to have a phone call with Cody on the way home. So
Nice.
Cody, if you're watching, I don't know. I think I want like a little bit more music in the
Middle part.
The middle part.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it though. What do you all think?
All right. Finally, I'm going to go back because it keeps starting it halfway through.
4 spots. Maybe we can do the rest of the factions someday. I would love that, but
probably not in time for this Kickstarter.
Probably not. No. But yeah, that is a long overview of our art process and creative direction process.
You did it
on
in
this.
an hour.
I did
I'm
do it in an hour.
impressed.
I had no idea how long that was going to take. I hope that was interesting for you. I enjoyed talking about it.
I was worried. You said I have a lot of content, and I was like, "Uh-oh, what does that mean?" But no, I think it was the perfect length. Brian says the Vamps was the best, so I really like the Vamps one. I'm torn. I think the Zombies might be my favorite, but the Zombies are my favorite faction.
Interesting.
So,
All right.
Vampires is my favorite.
Vampires is Sam's favorite, so that's great. And then we got the dog to end the show. This is great.
It's perfect.
If you have any more questions, we're actually answering questions right now over on Instagram. Go follow us at Mythic Mischief Game. At Mythic Mischief Game. If you don't have an Instagram, go make one. And then delete it after the campaign's over, so Zuckerberg doesn't get your data.
Yeah, definitely do that. We didn't do our giveaways, so I have to do that.
Oh, do your giveaways. That's great. What are we giving away?
Well, we're giving away a Moonrakers Kickstarter exclusive edition. Oh no, I didn't. I said we were giving away a pencil and a notebook set. So that's what we're giving away last week. So the winner of that is Felix Rolschazen. Did I get that right, Felix? I think you're in this
yours,
chat.
Felix.
So Felix, you won that from last week's episode. And then we're going to give another one of these and pencil set away for next week's episode. Actually, should we give something else away?
I don't know.
Sam, am I allowed to give something else away?
What is something else?
Yeah, what is something else?
I don't know. What do you guys want? A hat? We got these hats. I could give away one of those.
These hats will be for purchase.
Yeah, I'll give away a hat. So next week's giveaway will be a hat. All you have to do is comment about something. Oh, Sam doesn't like that, but it's going to be a hat.
It's going to be this hat. It's going to be Austin's hat.
My own hat, because I apparently wasn't supposed to give these away yet. Whoops. And so this will be next week's giveaway that we do on the show. All you have to do is comment. It probably should be something about the art of Mythic Mischief, but it doesn't have to be a compliment or anything. You can pick your favorite animation if you want. What are you going to say?
I was going to say favorite faction.
Favorite faction, that works. And we'll give away the hat next week.
All right. Whoops. That's great.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Hit us up.
It was really fun to kind of take a trip back in time and kind of see all that's changed, because a lot changed during it. So exclusive Austin signed hat is what Nicholas says.
Oh, yeah.
Ilya said hoodie. We do not have hoodies to give away right now, sadly. Maybe in the future.
We never will. We'll give them away. But they will be for purchase. Right?
Right. Sweet.
Follow Instagram for more.
Yep. Come ask us questions on Instagram.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
See you guys.